Hello. So my group decided to do our ethics board discussion on withdrawing ventilators from COVID-19 patients. As previously discussed, this is a issue where essentially you have a ventilator that's being in use and by a COVID patient, and we were withdrawing that use of a ventilator without patient consent or without consent of a family member that has power of attorney over the patient. It's a very ethically challenging question of whether or not we should be removing ventilator use from these type of patients in favor of other patients. So I kind of want to go over the bioethical principles that are applicable to the situation. Um, so Firstly, autonomy does tell that patients have control over their own healthcare, and they should have a say whether or not they do, they should be taken off the ventilator or not. But in a pandemic, I believe that justice, which is the fair allocation of resources, becomes a guiding principle here. And autonomy does have a play, but in a serious crisis like this, I think justice over trumps this bioethical principle of autonomy. And then from a beneficence perspective, we are doing the greatest good for greatest number of people by giving more opportunities to survive to more patients versus just having one patient on a ventilator. And then also, non-maleficence emphasizes to do no harm. But this might be, you might say that this is a reason to not remove a patient from a ventilator, but at the same time, letting multiple people die in favor of, another patient is also seen as doing harm to those other patients. And then also utility, which is achieving the greatest overall maximum benefit from limited resources is also a big issue because in a ventilator shortage, utility, means allocating them to patients who are more likely to survive and have a meaningful prognosis. I think the quote from Emmanuel in our textbook in the article Fair Allocation of Scarce Medical Resources in the Time of COVID-19, he writes that we should prioritize maximizing the benefits produced by scarce resources, treating people equally, promoting and rewarding instrumental value, and giving priority to the worst off. And I thought this quote was important because he mentions that we should give priority to the worst off. And that could mean, giving priority to those patients that have a better prognosis to survive and, giving them the chance to, maybe cure a few more patients rather than having just one that has a bad or has a limited prognosis. Um, and we want to maximize benefits, which means giving the ventilators to the patients that have the highest chance of surviving and recovering if they get that treatment. And so for me, the way you go about this and what I recommend is having kind of like a protocol or a prognosis where there's like kind of like a committee that comes along that says like, hey, this person has a very poor prognosis and they would, not receive the ventilator treatment anymore because we have these other patients that have a better prognosis and they could use the ventilator a lot more. And also in times where everything is scarce, it's really hard to transfer hospitals, find healthcare professionals to provide, different treatments. So I think this is the best way to go about maximizing the overall benefit of society while also emphasizing justice and utility and non-maleficence as much as we possibly can. Thank you for listening.